Welcome to Ueno Station. I'm here on a very sunny, super hot afternoon. It's about 10:45. I just got out of the dentist here and thought I would discuss this. This is a huge issue. When I was away in the United States, I saw the election results. The Juminto, the LDP, which has been the ruling party of Japan since World War II ended, is really starting to lose a lot of power. There's been so many scandals, corruption issues, policies that don't seem to be working, so many leadership changes. The core of Japan's politics is so messy. It's so different than the rest of the world. And the one thing that we saw in this last election was that there is an increase in anti-foreign sentiment, and you saw that in the election where there were a new party called Senso is now growing, born out of the pandemic age of a YouTuber who had a lot of stuff to say about this. Now it's starting to take on a life of its own. The party founded on what was sort of, I don't know, like conspiracies, I guess you could say. There's a feeling that the people have in Japan. We've seen this because it's propagated on the news all the time. When one bad actor, a foreign tourist, does something that just perplexes, that's a common sense in Japan. It makes the national news and it makes everybody look bad, including yours truly. I've been discussing this for a very long time when Ramses Ishmael, Johnny Somali, was here a couple of years ago. Now he's going to be probably spending some jail time in Korea. Another charge on him with all the other IRL streamers, graffiti on 1,000-year-old temples and shrines. We see now what's going on with the transportation system in Japan. Let me see if I can pull this up here. This was just the shorts that happened recently. Look, you can't even get out through the doors on trains. This is a safety issue. You can't bring your suitcases. You're supposed to take a taxi if you have this much luggage. And you see Japanese are like, wait, I want to go through here. I can't. It's just really something that's irritating a lot of Japanese, and it's being shown on the news quite a bit here. Tourists also like to spend time with the mafia here as well. I was like, what? There's a lot of weird stuff going on here. But I am a foreigner. The question is, like, am I part of the problem? Am I one of the people that is propagating the anti-foreigner feeling? I've been here for now 27 years. My Japan anniversary is this month, and I came here in 1998, going on to the 28th year now. And look, I probably was not a great foreigner when I first came here 27 years ago because I didn't know so much about the culture, but I certainly do now. And I wonder if I'm one of the problems here. And I mean, you got to look in the mirror. Maybe I am. Maybe I'm the one who's been showing Kyoto and causing the tourism there. But I kind of doubt it, though. It's good. It's healthy to ask these questions. But Kyoto's had a tourism problem well before foreign tourists came there. It's always been super crowded. We had a lot of keep the chat going on here. We had a lot of people coming from all around Japan when the population was a lot more than it is now. So Kyoto's always been a very crowded place. The problem is, though, I think that when you go from in 2014, what do we have, like 8 million tourists in 2013 to 10 million tourists in 2014 to now 40 million tourists? That 10 years, we've seen such a massive increase in foreign tourists. The percentage of bad actors has really, well, it's proportional to the amount of tourists that are coming in here, so we're seeing more and more of it. The result is that more bad stuff happens, things that are common sense. But it's not just the luggage. It's like stuff that is common sense that's happening all over the city of Tokyo, Kyoto, Himeji. I've asked my Japanese friends, my wife's friends, what they think, and they know it's an issue. They're not sure they don't know how to really solve it. As I see the go-karts of foreign tourists driving down the streets here, it's a really tough one because you can't kick out and stop foreign tourism. The Senso Party wants to reduce Japan's dependency on the tourism, but what other industry is there in Japan that actually has a lot of potential and is growing? It is such a difficult thing right now. So Japan really is at a crossroads, and this is my opinion as a foreign resident of Japan for 27 years. It's a very long time. I've seen this stuff kind of come and go as well, and I'm going to take some of your questions here in a second. I see Patrick is here. Patrick, I think that the far-right party is on the rise now. It is, absolutely, and it will be a lot worse for foreigners. Be prepared for upcoming elections. I get a feeling, though, that this stuff doesn't always last forever, all right? What that means is that, like, this is the snapshot of what it is today. And if you look back at this in 2 years, this was just a movement that's based on a house of cards. Because a lot of their, how do I say this? A lot of their problems, I actually might agree with some of them. The Japan First Party is what Senso is called. I think they won 14 more seats, which the ruling LDP party, Juminto, had a very narrow majority. If they had a majority, it didn't feel like it. Ishiba was the prime minister from the Juminto or LDP, Liberal Democratic Party. And now that I don't think that they are they're a majority, now there's calls of him to step down, but he's not going to because it would lead to chaos in Japan. There'd be no leadership whatsoever. So, I mean, look, I get a lot more to talk about this here, but the Senso Party, which is the party that's the far right here, is most popular among 18 to 39-year-olds who don't often vote, but voted in the last election, favoring the party more than the women, although women were voting for this party as well. This is not limited to this age group, just this is the main group, according to a poll by NHK. So if you look at the politicians, and these are the prime ministers of Japan. I came here with Prime Minister Hashimoto in 1998. I've seen, we have presidents, what was it, Clinton, Bush, Obama, Trump, Biden, Trump, okay? That's it. Look at all the prime ministers that I've gone through while I've been here. All the way to, yeah, right there, Yutaro Hashimoto. And now look at them. They're all pretty much uninspiring older gentlemen, all right? With probably very common, similar thinking. Politics in Japan is not monumentally inspirational. Not like it would be in the United States or other places. There's hard to find a populist candidate, for example, until you get to, like, you know, this is the Senso Party leader right now. He's young, he's energetic, he's different. You can understand now why people that are 18 to 39 are voting for them. A group that typically doesn't vote, a group that is in decline population-wise, but they're voting. And I'm a foreign resident, I can't vote. My wife wasn't here, so she didn't vote in this passing election, which is a shame. But you can see there is momentum here because they have energy, and the ruling party does not. There's no energy. The economy has been like stagnant since the 1990s. So there's a lot of worry. There's a lot of feeling that Japan is giving the country away to foreigners. This is a minority still in Japan, but it's growing, but it is still a minority. So I don't think it's anything to worry about, but I think it's something to keep an eye on. And I understand because, like, I've been here, I'm kind of in the middle of this in a way. So I started off by saying, am I the problem? And it is a good question to ask oneself. I don't think that I am, but maybe I would be, I don't, to these people. But the thing is, I can kind of see their side of it too. There's a way, the reason why Japan is so attractive to a lot of foreign visitors who come here is because it's clean, it's safe, people are polite, they focus on ingredients and foods. There's a culture of wanting to be perfect, to better oneself. I just saw Ichiro, who is a baseball player in the United States. He had a Hall of Fame speech. Go and watch it. It was just yesterday, I believe. And his speech exemplifies everything that is great about Japan. His work ethic, every day. He said, if you just worry about yourself and your own personal responsibility on bettering yourself, you become a better teammate for your teammates and for your team. So you become the best self of the best you that you could possibly be, and that's the best way to help your teammates. And that was his thinking. He was always getting better. And that's the way chefs are in Japan. That's the way the service is. But for this, there's also a way to follow. There's like a code or a system. It's the Japanese way. You can call it like that. So when you have a bunch of foreign residents coming in that changes the code, and it is not most of the people who are watching this. A lot of you have been repeaters to Japan. You've been here multiple times. You have a great love for this country as I do. You kind of have a better idea of how things work and why they work the way they work. But when you have a lot of people now buying a property that have never been to Japan before, or don't speak Japanese or understand the flow of things, it disturbs the way the country moves, the tranquility, the harmony, I guess you could say, of society. And there's a great worry that if more foreigners who don't understand Japanese culture come and move into society here, they're going to destroy that harmony that we have, which is the thing that a lot of people like on the trains. This is common sense here as I show this again. Let me see if I can pull this up again. It's common sense not to put your suitcases there. All right, it's common sense not to block the traffic. It's common sense to take a taxi. If you have this much luggage, you would take a bus. You wouldn't take public transportation. So this is kind of like common sense. You think about the people around you, which is the great thing about Japan. If you wear a mask if you're sick, so you don't get people sick around you. You don't wear a mask as just a defensive thing, because it doesn't work like that. If you're sick, I don't want to talk about the masks here. Get back into that. But people would wear the mask because they're thinking about everybody else around them. And that's how it works. If everybody thinks about the person next to you, then the society runs a lot smoother, and there's a general respect for one another. And when you start changing that harmony and people don't respect that anymore, then things start to break down. And we're starting to see that because we see and we hear. I'm talking as a Tokyo resident now, so now I'm becoming a Japanese person. I walk around Ginza, Shibuya, Asakusa. I see more foreigners than I see Japanese. There's a kind of, I guess maybe 10 years ago, there was a really big, like, wow, that's great. You guys have seen the TV shows that come to the airport and ask people, why are you here in Japan? We're so curious why you love our country. And then it moved into like, now there's just too many. They're all over the place. I can't even hear Japanese anymore. The service is changing to accommodate foreign travelers. And I'll probably make another live stream on this, but as a foreign resident in Tokyo, I'm getting a little bit tired of everybody at the supermarket, because the turnover in Tokyo is a lot higher than out in the countryside. There's always somebody new at the supermarket who doesn't know who I am, who tries to explain to me how to use the credit card, how to pay at the supermarket. Just yesterday, he goes, he's like, brew right, wait for brew. I'm like, I just want to rip my hair out. I was like, I know how to pay for a freaking thing at the supermarket. I don't want you to ask me for my point card every single time and all this other stuff. It's like, I get it. I'm a very patient person, but every single time, because the turnover rate is so high in the city, there's always a new person there. And there's so many foreign tourists who have no idea, clue how the society works, that they see a foreign face, and that's me. And I'm caught somewhere in the middle of all of this anti-foreigner talk, but I'm a foreigner. So when they're anti-foreigner, I'm probably going to lean on the side of the foreigners, you would think. But then again, there are some things I kind of agree with Senseido, but not a lot. Some things. There's some shared things. And I told my wife that, and she was really angry. I don't know. What do you guys think about this, all right? There's a lot of stuff I want to talk about. I'm going to go here into the shade. Maybe that's a better idea. I can't see the chat here for some reason. I wonder what's going on. So, so we were talking about bad tourists to the Japan, right? Believe it or not, and I'm 51 years old, it's no secret, I traveled through the 1990s. I didn't get a chance in the 80s, but in the 1990s, I got a chance to see before Chinese tourists were a thing. tourists in China did not travel, except domestically. Japanese were, you know, the tour group, flag waving tourists out there all through Europe, all through New York. I saw this, and they were not perfect. They were not perfect either. There were a lot of complaints about Japanese tourists in the 1980s and the 1990s, and it's time to now self-reflect a little bit on how Japanese tourists were far from perfect back then. There were a lot of complaints about them as being, well, there's a list here. Hold on. I got a whole list here. And I kind of agree with them except for one of them here. The top local complaints about Japanese tourists. So look, we're talking about how foreign tourists are sometimes bad. Let's talk about the Japanese tourists in the 1980s and 90s when Japan had a lot of disposable income to travel and be everywhere. They moved in big flag-following packs that blocked sidewalks, overwhelmed attractions, and disrupted quiet spaces. Absolutely true. There would be large groups of tourists that would come in here, a quiet place, all of a sudden overridden by people that would take pictures like crazy. What are they taking pictures of? And it was film. This stuff's expensive. Just taking pictures of everything, not asking. Like, can I take a picture of you? In Japan, we'd be very polite about it, but this is a foreign country. They just take pictures. I was in pictures all the time of Japanese tourists when I was walking around New York. It's like, what's going on? When I was in Europe, Japanese tourists would ask to take pictures with me because I was a foreigner, and they thought maybe I was Italian. Hey, I would say, si, and prego, prego. You know, I would just pretend and have some fun here, but most of them didn't ask. That's not polite. So I mean, like, if we're self-reflecting here, constant photography was an issue. I was in the Sistine Chapel in 1998. It was one of the first backpacking trips I did. 1996. And there's a sign in Italian and English, and I think it was in Japanese, that said no photography. And all you saw were it was quiet. A tour group came in, flash photography like crazy, and then it just died. It was gone. And there was one little Italian woman here trying to get people to stop taking the photos. Japanese tourists. Everybody says I'm always pro-Japan. I am. I'm just saying Japanese tourists were not really the best of the best all the time. Known for luxury goods, showing off. No tipping. If you're talking about knowing the local culture, I remember I was working at a restaurant in Columbus. I had 3 Japanese businessmen. I gave them great service, no tip. I was a little upset because I think the service was good, but 0 tip. I shrugged it off. I said, well, look, that's just the way it is. You win some, you lose some. I lost some that day, but that was no tipping at all. Like, they didn't know. So I can understand that's a kind of complicated thing, but this goes into the same thing that maybe coming to Japan for Western tourists would be quite complicated. Cultural insensitivity. Japanese are usually pretty quiet, but when they came in packs with the tour groups, they were not always very quiet, all right? They showed little engagement with local history and traditions. There was this joke in the 1990s that the tour buses would come, everybody would jump off, they'd take a picture, not learn about what they were looking at, the tour guide wouldn't even talk about it, they'd get back on the bus and drive away. These are stereotypes, but I'm just saying this because as we're now stereotyping gaikokujin kankosha, which is foreign tourists, which I'm looped into, I'm just saying, like, there's a lot of issues here that go beyond just this. I got even more. I think you get the point here. There were a lot of problems with Japanese tourists in the 1980s and 1990s. So now that Japanese citizens don't have the disposable income or the money because of a weak Japanese yen to travel internationally to places like Hawaii anymore, now they're trying to travel domestically, and now they're being now it's competitive with foreign tourists, and it's way more crowded, way more expensive. I think a lot of the businesses would prefer to have the foreign tourists than they would the Japanese tourists because they can make some more money off of that sometimes. So it just depends. But things have really shifted into a 180 so quickly. I think it came about in 2022 during the pandemic when the yen became like 150 to the dollar, and it stayed there. Japanese could no longer really travel abroad anymore. I saw this when I was in Guam, and I saw this in Hawaii. They're all staying domestically. So there's a secondary catalyst to this. It's not just the bad behavior of the foreign tourists, it's now the Japanese are traveling more and they're encountering the foreign tourists a lot more than usual. So this is becoming something that is pushed to the forefront. When it comes to residents in Japan though, and this is the most perplexing thing to me, and I don't want to go on too long about this because this is probably a multi-part issue. Prime Minister Ishiba's hands are tied in many respects, and they created a foreign resident commission or agency. I don't know why they're picking on foreign residents, but I think it might have to do with people that just moved here that are buying property in the communities, and there's a lot of worry from those people in the communities because they don't like the change. A lot of people, older people pretty much don't like the change. They like to keep things the status quo the way things are because they understand that. But when a lot of people, foreigners, start buying houses and stuff, then there's issues. So they created this agency. Also, there's been more foreign residents taking the welfare payments for not being employed and things like this. This really is a thing, because I have Japanese friends that are unemployed, but they don't want to take the unemployment insurance despite the fact that they have access to it out of a pride thing. They'll just work hard to try to get a job or use their parents' money or their savings. So they try not to even dip into the systems, but foreigners will dip right into the systems, I guess. So and a lot of it is not like people like me, but there are people who have moved here from neighboring countries that are really starting to put a strain on these systems that even Japanese don't take it. Japanese don't even take their vacation days. Japanese don't take paternity or maternity stuff. They take it for like 3 days or something. It is crazy. There's a societal pressure not to take advantage of the stuff that we have. Social Security here, I pay into the pension, Nenkin, I pay into the Social Security and the healthcare programs, and I would expect to have the benefits returned to me. I don't think I'm going to get my Nenkin, my Social Security here in Japan, despite paying into it, as a good resident would. I don't complain about it. But it's interesting, though, that this has become a real big issue. And this is one of the things. They don't want to pay out to people. And this is why when a lot of you who come and ask me advice about retiring in Japan doesn't want anybody over the age of 50. That probably includes me. Because I'm going to be one of those people who's sucking the life out of the social programs that they no longer can even afford. Health insurance, if I'm in the hospital all the time, I'm probably sucking the life out of the National Health Insurance Program, and they want people 30 who are paying into it, not taking out of it. So retiring in Japan, it's not what communities really want because they have too many people that are already retired here. This population's in decline. I don't know, they want to see young people. I got a lot of stuff to talk about this. I have so many different angles. The Senso Party, again, like I talked about it, some of the stuff that they're really focused on, Japan first. Hey, that's not a bad thing. I think it's important that Japan thinks about itself sometimes. But sometimes these far-right policies can go a little bit too far, and they're not based on anything it's based on an emotion and not actual fact. Strict restrictions, no welfare for foreigners. That's kind of a harsh thing, but there's no gray area here for discussion in their policies. Zero chemical farming, I can kind of get behind that. Defense, they want to rewrite the Constitution, which is a very pacifist Constitution. I think there's not a lot of Japanese that are into that, but the younger people might be. Anti-vaccine, mask choice. I get that because Japan, if you're looking back at it and you want to ask my opinion, you probably are, maybe. I think Japan should have stayed the Japanese way with that. I think that they should have done more testing and before they mandated vaccines, but who the heck knows? It's an older society where people are more at risk here than they would be. I don't know, that's such a really hard one, but they made this an issue. So they found populist issues to run on and they're winning. And that's why there is this movement, but grain of salt with all of this movement, the news is here to scare you. I don't think a lot's going to change in Japan because it's not a country that does these monumental shifts. I think it is a movement. I think they're going to recalibrate a little bit. But in the end, the good people stay because they have to, and the bad people get kicked out because they have to. So I think that that's a healthy thing, perhaps. But the bottom line is that the media is going to scare you a little bit with this. It's not so much of as big of an issue as you think. Usually, rational thinking comes back into play. There was a time where the LDP lost power. It was right before the tsunami and earthquake. I was here for it. It was after the financial collapse in 2008, and another party came into power. And they were doing an okay job in the beginning, and then once the tsunami and the earthquake hit, it was like, it fell apart. It was based on a house of cards. And the LDP came back stronger. And they had Abe, who was a prime minister for 1 year, come back, and he stayed around following that for like the longest serving prime minister, I believe. So it was a very long time. So we had some stability based on the failure of the other party. I think that these parties, they bring up some points, but it's not based on anything that really has teeth in society. And the writing on the wall is there that Japanese business and industry is not on the rise. Technology, even Sony with the sensors, they just released a camera. It makes no sense. They're going to be passed by DJI and Insta360 in like 3 years. China's making imagery sensors at a high level. They've got DJI has Hasselblad. They're going to probably be making cameras. Sony is so slow and so tone deaf with the latest camera that they did, a full frame compact camera, where the parts for the camera cost $300 to $400 for like thumb grips and things like this. It's so tone deaf. For that money, for just a grip, you could buy an entirely new camera, but it's a kind of thinking, Japanese business thinking, where it's not really in tune with what people want, and you lose market share. And right now, when you're at the top, it's hard to stay there because China is so much faster. I am worried, I am worried, but I'm also not worried so much about myself because I'm in a sector that is growing in Japan, whereas a lot of the people around me that are working so hard, I want success for them too. But I think you definitely need to have foreign tourism increase, but you need to have more integration programs for foreign residents perhaps. You need to have more classes where foreign residents learn the language. You need to have more education maybe at the airport. You can do things differently than the rest of the world. You can have more education. When people come into the airport and before they come into Japan, you can have them sit down and watch a movie like they're at a museum to try to kind of make things a little bit interesting. Everyone's going to be talking about it, but that kind of stuff is pretty good. Education is good. People don't get this before they come to Japan for the first time, and I think that this is something that they should really consider because you can't keep complaining about it. You can't complain about it, and when you let it linger, and this has been an issue, not just like, I asked ChatGPT to list up, hold on a second, to list up all of the issues. I got a bunch of assets here. Let me see here. Yeah, here it is. Of stuff that foreigners have done here in Japan. This is built up going all the way back to like 2014 when the tourism boom started. That's when Prime Minister Abe said we're going to have 10 million tourists. All this stuff has been festering, just getting recycled in the news on how bad the foreign visitors are, how they don't respect Japanese culture, and they don't even try to make an effort. This is 1.01% of the people coming into Japan. And as I said, Japanese tourists were not perfect when they traveled abroad in the 80s and 90s. The over-tourism is a problem that's not just in Japan, but it's global. But unlike a lot of those countries, Japan is very much needing a robust tourism industry now. They need that 50 million tourists to keep this going because there's so many more Japanese now that are making livelihoods off of this to support their families. I don't see how they can Sorry, I'm back. I'm in the cool Ueno station right now. I was overheating, not just because now I can see the chat. It was so bright out there. I was overheating, and maybe that led to my ranting. I get strong feelings on this, just like a lot of you do. I'll take some questions here. His chat view melted me. I'm also frozen. Lainey, bring some of that freezing here. I'm gonna go get a drink right after this. Thanks, guys. Thank you, Patrick, as well. I saw all that stuff coming in there. Patrick, you're so kind. I got 5G activated. That's probably the issue. This is not a result of just streamers here. Look at the sweat coming down. This is a result of a lot of different things. A lot of stuff just combining at the worst possible time. So yeah, IRL streamers definitely played one little part in there. It's an issue that's in the news all the time, but there's other issues. The littering at Kanazawa's Higashichaya was off the charts, where residents, in particular people on cruises and stuff, I guess, they would come in waves, they would eat a lot of the street food and then just throw it on the ground. So they stopped street food in Higashichaya in Kanazawa completely. Just cut it off. You have to eat inside the shop. You can't eat outside. So they started making rules like this to cut down. I wear a dark shirt because you don't see the sweat as much, but I found that doesn't always work so well. Instead, you see salt lines as I sweat and cool off throughout the course of the day. Maybe I'll go back to white shirts. I don't know. But the only thing that I could think of is one. So maybe this is where I end on this. I'll probably do another on this because there's so many different elements and angles to this. I'm sure people in the chat and the comments are going to refute some of the things that I said, disagree. I think that's healthy to do. I think it's good to talk about this. But the underlying issue is that I'd say half of the tourists that are coming to Japan are repeaters and have been here before and genuinely have a great love for this country, and they save up their money to try to come back here. It feels like half are repeaters. Then there's the people who are first timers, and I don't see anything wrong with that. The ports of call giving a 15 minute, I think 12 to 15 minutes where everybody comes in and watches a video about Japan, and they all wait outside, make it like a theme park perhaps, and you learn about Japanese etiquette and culture. And these little teeny things will fix a lot of little problems, and those people that are repeaters are going to come back and they're going to be amazing. There's nothing wrong with foreign tourism to Japan. There's just everything wrong with first timers who are coming here that don't understand little teeny things that are common sense to Japanese people, but they're not common sense to Westerners, because weak Westerners don't have common sense apparently anymore in some places. It's true. I don't know. That's debatable. But the news always makes it seem like things are a lot worse than it really is. And a lot of us know this is a lot better things are a lot better than what the news reports. A lot better. That's us. Love the Japanese. We lived there for 3 years. JD writes in here, while the military and our kids are stationed in Okinawa, so we love to come. Yeah, exactly. I mean, JD, you know a lot more about Japan and Japanese culture than most of the people who are coming here. But if you say all foreigners, and this is the thing that worries me with Sanseido, it's a blanket foreign residents. Some of them are married to Japanese and have children here. I'm a father of a citizen, and one day maybe I become a citizen too. I really don't know. It's not in my plans. Very proud to be American. Look, I think for the first timers who come here, the airport is such an amazing port of call. People are tired, but if you can do something to help them understand the etiquette of Japan in a fun way, maybe in a manga or in an anime as well, that people will share on social media and get the word out, you would solve so many of these little issues. Call it propaganda. Call it whatever you want. People, the thing is, the problem that a lot of Japanese have is that if there's one person criticizes you, then you failed. But you're going to be criticized no matter what you do. You're going to be criticized no matter what you do on this issue. There's no way you can. People call in and criticize TV stations, and they fire people based on like a few criticisms off of people who complain. I'm telling you, Japan wants zero risk, but you need to, I think it's time to say what's best for the Japanese people is to make sure that people who come to visit have at least a basic understanding of Japanese etiquette, so that there is a seamless experience for tourists. Because a lot of the problems, the people who are coming here, they don't want to be issues. They don't want to be a problem. They just don't know because nobody tells them. And in Japan, no one's going to tell you. As I said, Japanese tourists, when they went abroad, wouldn't really interact with the locals. Most Japanese don't want to interact with the tourists. They kind of, they're from a different culture. They might get angry at me. They see the risk in confronting a foreign tourist, especially if they're doing something wrong. So most people will just ignore it and then complain online. I'm telling you, it's, you know how they complain? They complain by voting. They're not going to tell it to your face. They vote. They send a message. I heard the message. I'm giving a solution. Start at the port of calls and give etiquette videos. In fact, the Senso Party can help Ishiba make these videos to try to alleviate the problem, and then see how it goes and then alter the plan. But you can't get rid of tourism. You can't stop the momentum. I don't think you could even if you tried. Hello Kitty show. Yeah. I know Grace is one of our followers in Australia. She'd be in on that, right, Grace? If you're watching here. Make it fun. Make it something people want to share. Make it viral. And it'll do wonders in just resolving. 99% of the issues are small things that can be resolved, like luggage, like making reservations, like understanding how the system works. On exit, when foreign tourists leave Japan, get an exit poll. What didn't they understand? What do you think Japan could have done better? Start to examine some of the things that are common issues with misunderstanding. There's a misunderstanding. If you give food to somebody and there's no trash cans and you don't explain to them how the system works, they're going to be throwing the trash wherever they can find a place, or if they can't, they're just going to put it on the street. So maybe there's little issues that they can do with communication in this way. There's lots of things that can be done. Not a lot of it is being done yet. So I think this is, they want 60 million tourists by 2030. Who's they, first of all? Sanseiro doesn't. Personally, I think growth needs to be something that is progressing, but it can't be so quick. And after the pandemic, we moved from 0 to 40 million so fast. And this is another reason of the rise. Just people aren't used to it. People aren't used to the times where nobody was here in 2022 to now in 2025 where you can't move in some places. Where historical streets and places where people live are now populated more by foreign tourists who come and go and don't assimilate into the society, destroying that harmony that is one of the reasons why the foreign tourists like coming to Japan in the first place. So these videos on the port of entry, as well as the exit polls on the port of exit to help with repeaters, are really essential so we can make sure that there is harmony with the citizens of Japan and with the tourists themselves who don't know about these little etiquette things. I told you when I first came to Japan in 1998, I said this in a live stream, I worked as an English teacher. They gave me a book. It was the weirdest book on how to separate your garbage, and it was like life situations, and it was a book. And I read that book and I said, boy, Japan is a funny little place. It's a real interesting country, you know. But the book helped. It ended up opening the door to the fact that Japan won't change for me. I have to learn to change for Japan to fit in this society if I want to live here. And I did. And that's why I've been here for 27 years. And I think you could too. But it has to do with communication 100%. They need a program to create different travel packages, I think. As a first timer, you'll have more than just a standard loop around Tokyo. Absolutely. Another thing, if tourists got out of the tourist center and went to local areas with a guide, and hiring a guide is a great thing to do, I think, because it's another way to learn. You open up a completely different Japan. Japan is not Kyoto and Tokyo and Osaka. It's not. To me, Japan is a way of life. It's going into the electronics store and seeing everyday life on display, like rice cookers and weird devices, futon warmers, you know, things that we don't have in the West. It's a different society. Kotatsu, tables with heat on top of heat that makes us warm underneath there that I just love. There's lots of things about the society that are wonderful, but you don't see it in Tokyo and Kyoto. You won't get a kotatsu. You won't get futon in a lot of hotels. You might not sleep in a futon or wear a yukata the whole time you're in Japan. 90% of the tourists probably never go to a ryokan or traditional Japanese inn. So what I'm saying is, I think at the port of entry, have some kind of information. I think a movie would be great. You can have these little movie theaters. There's lots of space at Narita and Haneda Airport that doesn't get used at all. Have people filter in through there. You could have it like Jurassic Park. You remember when Jurassic Park, remember the first one? And you went in there and you had that character, the genetic molecule explaining the dinosaurs and how Jurassic Park, that's what you need. You need the Jurassic Park in-flight movie. It's always a miss. Has to be at the port of call. Has to be off the airplane. Has to be on Japan ground. Have the same kind of an entry video that they had for Jurassic Park in the movie. Right? I love that. Fukuoka and Sapporo should have more tourism, but not going out of my way in the middle. Yeah, Sapporo, I think, is pretty saturated with tourists right now, to be honest with you. A lot of people go there. It's a lot more crowded than you think. Perhaps you haven't been there in a while. Fukuoka could definitely use more. Nagasaki could have used more tourists. Miyazaki, almost no foreign tourists in Miyazaki. Oita, I'm thinking out of the box here. Nemuro, it's a pretty interesting, easternmost city in Japan. Tohoku is still pretty much empty. Aomori City, Morioka, Akita, Kakunodate in Iwate is an awesome little samurai city right between Morioka and Akita. Look, there's a ton of places that tourists just don't know yet. But a movie would be good, like Jurassic Park. Yeah, Bruce, there's a lot of in Fukuoka, there's a lot of neighboring countries like China. India is very popular with Kita-Kyushu and Fukuoka as well. It's a growing tourism spot. It's a lot of flights from India coming into there. So Fukuoka's on the rise for sure. But yeah, they just don't have the same kind of attractions, I think, that perhaps the other places have. It's just different, you know. They have a good food culture. Foreigners can be a problem, but I think it's more about the economy. Japan needs to at least get rid of tax-free status for foreigners. Look, they could put in a 10,000 yen. They keep raising the tax like 1,000 yen. Just put 10,000 yen on entry. People are still going to come. Use that money to produce videos and literature and use it in the right way. Because another political scandal is something we don't want. I don't know what else you can do. Maybe you do. So leave me a comment below and I'll follow up on this. All right, guys, take care. That's more rant than I wanted to give for today. I'm glad that we could cool off a little bit, but I'll be back and talk more about this issue. I got a lot of other stuff that I want to talk about, but look, this anti-foreign movement is built on a house of cards. It's built on a lot of information that is not factual enough to build a strong political movement. It's a very weak faction, although it's growing right now. I think if Ishiba-san can find a way to do it, And again, we've had a long list of not really strong prime ministers in Japan. It's a very long list of like, so I can pull it up here, of like failed, weak, I'm a prime minister, I don't know what to do next prime ministers. I've been here for a long time. I didn't have a lot of faith. Taro Aso did a decent job, but he wasn't exactly effective in a lot of stuff. I liked him, he was funny. He's a good guy. I don't know if he was the best leader. Naoto Kan, some tough times during the tsunami and the earthquake. Abe-san came back and he took advantage of the fact that the other party was in disarray, but he didn't really change stuff. He just added some leadership, but it wasn't changing leadership to bring Japan forward. I don't even know what that means for Japan, because Japan's got its own way to do things, but the leaders here, they all kind of like status quo. All right, and what we got right now is not status quo, and there's a feeling right now it's less anti-foreign. I see it as less anti-foreign and more anti-status quo. You know what I mean? I want to leave you with this, guys. Right now, my friends at Kodo in Sado Island, they have not sold out their events, and I'm a big supporter of theirs. If you are in Japan on the 22nd to the 24th of August, the tickets are available, and they have a camping spot. You can even rent the tents there if you don't have a tent. It's really hot, but I think this is a really good local festival to go and visit. Shinkansen and a ferry ride. Shinkansen Tokyo to Niigata, ferry ride from Niigata to Sado Island, and you're on a place in the middle of the the middle of the Sea of Japan, with a look at that, that's so hard to do. This is one of the most amazing percussion concerts, live performances in the world. 3 days with street food out in the front of it. I think I have some more images of the event. But I went to these almost every year for the last 5 years. A couple of years I took off. I don't know if I'm going to go this year, but if the tickets are available, we might. This is such an amazing festival. I can't believe the tickets are, usually it's sold out, but I think that they lost a little bit of momentum with the pandemic. People don't know about it as much. So yeah, get to Sado Island and check out this festival by Kodo. Earth Celebration 2025 is the thing. I get a space on the grass. Spent a couple of hours rocking with the taiko drums, and those taiko drums stick with you for like the entire year. It like opens up your soul because you can feel it in your gut. It's pretty awesome. A lot of fireworks as well. Edogawa fireworks this Saturday. I won't be there, but that would be probably the place to go. I'm gonna try to get out of Tokyo this week, so we'll see how it goes. I got a lot of videos to work on. All right, take care, everybody. Stay cool. I'm gonna go get something to drink, but I'm looking forward to the comment section here. Absolutely disagree with me. I've got very thick skin. I've been doing this for a long time, but I love Japan and I want to see a success here. I want to see a way to work through this, and a lot of the anti-foreign sentiment just comes from a lack of communication on both sides, because Japanese weren't the greatest tourists in the 80s and 90s, and now we have tourism coming here, which is still a pretty new thing. It's going to get better before it gets worse, although it might get worse in the short term. In the long term, it's going to get better before it gets worse. Take care, guys. Thanks, Saya. Nice to see you here. Mata ne.